rabbis of yesteryear. Now, we happen to be on the 19th of Elul. We're going to speak about a famous rabbi of his time. Rabbi we've spoken about on various occasions before. Rabbi Salman Mani. Zecher Tzadik Libracha, 19th of Elul is his Hilula. That's naturally Yotet Elul. And he was a great rabbi. We're going to learn about him. We're going to learn he was born actually in Iraq, in Baghdad. And he would spend his youth actually in Hebron. And it's actually interesting. His father was also a famous rabbi, Rabbi Salman Mani. He actually lived between 1818 to 1899. He was a Kabbalist and a rabbinical scholar, his father was. And just to go backtrack, so around the year 1858, his father would serve as a chief rabbi, the Chacham Bashi, for a period of time. And there was while Rabbi Salman was very young, he would enrich with a great Kabbalistic education in his youth and would become a noted rabbi in his own right later in life. Obviously, I think at that point in time, there'll be a turn to the rabbinate came, I think, after many years of adventures, let's just say, in regards to the business field. We're going to learn about how he would travel throughout the Levant and North Africa and would actually become very involved with regards to Hebrew literacy. Let's just say in of itself, he would create, he was very creative, that at times traversed, let's say, various different, explored various different spheres of the language itself, respectively. He was a devoted student of both Hebrew and Arabic, just like many people, especially from the Sephardic countries, were at that point in time. From when his adolescence, respectively, he produced a body of notable Hebrew poetry and some prose, let's say, in the 1870s through the 1890s. Now, great rabbis are still, let's say, looking into the thematic and formal scope of his sophisticated poetry, where I think poems were well established, let's just say, conventional moral and religious themes, which sit along striking poetry about various other topics. Also, it's actually interesting. I think we have to talk about it. I think there was a lot of anti-Semitism at that point in time, and many Jewish people did suffer. And I think he was imprisoned in Damascus for a short window of time, I think from 1880. But he was very, very close with many people in Ottoman Palestine at that point in time, which I have to point out. In the 1880s, would publish several socially descriptive sketches and a story excerpted here, I think, in Hatzvi, the journal, which was a famous Hebrew, Zionistic, Hebraist pioneer, and this is it was connected to the secular Zionist publicist Eliezer Ben Yehuda. And scholars read let's just say, the conclusion. I think it was called it was under a specific title in of itself. So he would write stories in of itself. I think notably, I think in response to a report in the Hatzvi, I think at that stage in time, which we also have to point out. So that's very, very interesting. Let's explore a few of the more highlights of the great rabbi's life. Now, it's actually interesting. So we said before, he was actually born, and I think his father, as we said before, was Rabbi Eliyahu. He was a very, very big rabbi at that point in time. I think his mother's name was Rabbinit Smara, if I'm not mistaken. Baghdad at that stage of time had a very strong Jewish community, and we have to point out also, I think his name, there was another Rabbi Salman Mani, I think that was the name of his grandfather, I believe. So that is very, very interesting also to point out. I think there was a closeness, obviously. There was Rabbi Mנחem Lonzea also, who was an author of the Shtei Yadot, which we also have to point out. Now, I think, come on, year 1856, around that time period, he was only about 6 years of age. He would make Aliyah to Eretz Israel. He would go embark and journey to Israel. I think it would take as long as 20 months to arrive in Israel. So to go through Aram Sava, I remember in those days they didn't have aeroplanes, it wasn't so easy to travel. So it was a journey at that stage in time. So they would travel 3 months to get to Jerusalem, the capital of Eretz Israel. I think, come on, 1858, only a short window of time afterwards, they would move to Hebron, another holy city of Israel. And he would learn Torah under a great rabbi over there, a rabbi we've spoken about on various occasions before, Rabbi Shlomo Eliazarov, another great rabbi, and also through the auspices of his father, he would learn. And obviously, being a prominent rabbi in Hebron in of itself, and there was also another great rabbi at that point in time, I think based in Hebron, a rabbi named Rabbi Moshe Pereira, who we've spoken about on various occasions before. And it's actually interesting. I think Rabbi Salman would get married to his daughter, Marat Reina, Rabbinit Reina, and they would have 5 boys and 5 girls reported over, just using the information here from the Hayami website, like usually we use it as a reference over here. He would be on his, let's just say, his father's right-hand man within regards to helping the Jewish community of Hebron at that stage in time. I think, sadly, in the early 1860s, if I'm not mistaken, there was an epidemic that actually took place of cholera. I think that's the name that was used at that point in time. It did hit many places across various vicinities nearby, and he had to help managing that window of time. I think at a later stage, there will be maybe around 1864-ish, a synagogue called Beit Yaakov would be, and the Bchad, which was part of the Jewish courtyard over there, would be established. Maybe that was maybe more 1871, and then afterwards, I think in 1872, more would be done. I think there was a library, if I'm not mistaken, Midrash Eliyahu, which was actually set up, I think, in Yeshiva Maaseh. I think it was about 1875 to go to Damascus in Syria as a shlichut rabbinic emissary at that stage in time. I think on behalf of his father, and I'll state what it says over here. יצא דמשק לשליחות אביו לרכוש את אדמת הכפר סען ברא. This was quite near Hebron. אך לא עלה בידו. Okay, then come on, 1879. He would go with his father, I think, back to the city of Baghdad in Iraq, over there, and more happenings over there, which is very, very important. I think at that point in time there was rulership under the Turks, if I'm not mistaken, and very much, I think he was in correspondence with the governor of Turkey, respectively. And it was a turbulent time period over there. I think because of anti-Semitic trumped-up charges, I think come on to 1880, they would put him in detention, if I'm not mistaken, for a large window of time, a couple of years, if I'm not mistaken. Then afterwards, I think around 1883, he would return to Hebron, and he would continue working over there on behalf of the congregation, the Jewish congregation over there. Then in 1884, I think once again he would go as a traveling again as a rabbinic emissary on behalf of his father, and would go to other parts, respectively, at that point in time. He would travel, I think, to Mitzrayim, to Egypt, to Algiers, also to Tunisia. In 1884, he will reach, I think, Calcutta in India. Remember, India at that point in time, there was a very large, big Iraqi Indian community at that stage in time, because a lot of people had moved to India, and we have to point that out. Now, come on, 1898 will be another, let's say, strong year in of itself. He will become the Rosh Yeshiva, Yeshivat Maaseh Nisim. This was 1898. 1899, sadly, his father passed away, and Hacham Eliyahu Mani. And then it's actually interesting, I think Rav Rachamim Yosef Franco was appointed a rabbi in Hebron, and he was, I think, appointed a head of the Jewish quarter there, Rosh Abedin. Come on, 1900. Once again, I think there would be the expansion of the Yeshiva, Yeshivat Maaseh Nisim, and in 1902, it actually came out his book of Rabbi Salman Mani. I think his book was actually called, it was of his father, the Siyach Yitzchak. 1905 was another important year. I think there was the rabbi of Hebron sadly passed away. Passed away, so he went to afterwards to hold on a minute. So afterwards he went to Rav Cheskia. Yeah, so, sorry about that. I think it was around 1905 the chief rabbi of Hebron passed away. That was Rav Cheskia Meni, another great rabbi we've spoken about before. So he would then at that stage in time become the chief rabbi of Hebron, respectively. Come on, 1906 was another important year, let's just say, in the Jewish calendar. That's why unfortunately Rabbi Yaakov Shaul Elisha passed away at that point in time. Rabbi we spoke about also on various occasions before. He was Shon Letzion, and Rabbi, yes, that would mean there'd be more changing shit, let's just say, within regards to the structure of the rabbinate at that point in time. And I think at that stage in time, Rabbi Eliyahu Moshe Paniziel will take over that position also. Remember, the Rishon LeZion position was a prime position, and that will affect the other positions, let's just say, in Eretz Israel, respectively. So that was also very important. Rabbi Salman Mani will actually lead the Jewish community of Hebron, and a period of very difficult years it happens to have been. I think it was a time period of the First World War. And in 1914 this will be, and then the British would actually take over Israel eventually in 1917. And I think at that point in time various different kollelim were closed because of this, and the Shivat Maaseh Nisim was severely hit also over there. And I think at that point in time they were trying to draft many people into the Ottoman army, so that was also another issue the Jewish community and the Torah community, let's just say, had to grapple with, which was let's just say very, very serious at that point in time. At the end of the war, I think many of them obviously the need for soldiers at that point in time, and the British would actually arrive over there, which would also bring various different changes also, which we also have to point out. And I think sadly he eventually passed away on the 19th of Elul in the year 1924. He was 74 years of age at the time he passed away. Among his books include the Memane Frecha. I think there's the Perushim and Drashot that actually came out in the year 1987. That was way after he passed away. And there's also the Maaseh Eliyahu, another important book in of itself. So friends, we're a community here. We're learning about great rabbis from yesteryear. If you can send from any of the great rabbis, please let me know. Send me an email. I'd love to get more information. If anyone's interested in watching any of these videos, share these videos also to other people. A special treat, I'll leave you with some of the scenes of a travelling journey from Bet Shemesh to Jerusalem, and enjoy. And we're going to be live again in a few minutes with another important video. So over here, enjoy some of the scenes of Jerusalem.